Have you ever looked at the world and felt like something was missing? Like what you see isn't the full picture, just a projection, a mask? What if I told you? There's an eye inside you. Not the ones on your face, not even the one guided by your thoughts, but an ancient eye, one that doesn't just see what's in front of you, it sees what's beneath everything. This is the third eye. It's not fantasy. It's not some mystical gimmick. It's the most dangerous form of clarity you'll ever experience, because once it opens, you can't lie to yourself anymore. Carl Jung didn't speak of this eye in spiritual terms, but he knew of it. He called it the door to the unconscious, the gateway to what lies beneath the mask, beneath the ego, beneath the persona. And here's the harsh truth. Most people never open this eye. Why? Because seeing truth hurts more than being blind to lies. This isn't a video about chakras or crystals. This is about perception. This is about breaking the illusion your mind has built to protect your wounds. This is about seeing yourself unfiltered. And once you see yourself, you'll never look at the world the same again. So if you're ready to stop living in sleep mode, if you're ready to unlock the power that your ancestors felt but couldn't explain, stay with me, because we're not just going to talk about the third eye, we're going to tear the veil off and show you what happens when it truly opens. Chapter 1. Ancient Truth, the Eye Before Time. Long before telescopes could touch the stars, before microscopes revealed the invisible world, before psychology had a name, ancient civilizations already knew there was more to reality than what the physical eyes could see. They weren't primitive, they were precise. Their wisdom wasn't based on science, it was based on experience. They spoke of a center within the human being, a place of power, a source of vision, a portal to truth that existed beyond the five senses. They called it the third eye, not because it was imaginary, but because it saw what the other two eyes never could, the unseen, the symbolic, the spiritual. In Hinduism, it's known as the Ajna Chakra, the sixth energy center. Positioned in the middle of the forehead, it's believed to be the seat of divine intelligence, clairvoyance, and intuitive knowing. It governs not what you see, but how deeply you understand what you're seeing. In Buddhism, it's not just a concept, it's a path. It's the journey inward, the practice of detaching from illusion, from ego, from the cravings of the world. This I leads to nirvana, a state of inner peace, free from illusion and suffering. In ancient Egypt, it took form as the Eye of Horus, a powerful symbol carved into stone and myth. It represented protection, spiritual insight, and wholeness. It wasn't just an artistic mark, it was a reminder that divine sight was the ultimate power. And yet, despite geography, language, and belief, all these traditions echoed one timeless truth. This eye doesn't open with sight. It opens with awakening, not with effort, but with inner alignment, not with force, but with presence, not with seeing more of the world, but with finally seeing yourself. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds of the modern world, a psychologist, a mystic, a visionary, understood what the ancients knew. He said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Because the third eye isn't found in your skull, it's unlocked in your soul. It's not about fantasy, it's about perception. It's not about becoming magical, it's about becoming honest. And honesty begins within." That's where the third eye truly lives, not in the cosmos, not in sacred temples, but right behind your ego and before your truth. Welcome to the beginning, not of seeing more, but of seeing deeper. Chapter 2. The Science of Spiritual Vision, the Pineal Portal. Let's go deeper, not into mythology, but into biology. Because the third eye isn't just symbolic, it's physiological, it's real. Hidden deep in the center of your brain, nestled between the two hemispheres, lies a mysterious pine-cone-shaped gland. Tiny in size, but monumental in power. It's called the pineal gland, and for thousands of years, spiritual traditions believed this to be the seat of higher consciousness. Now science is beginning to agree. René Descartes, the philosopher and mathematician, called the pineal gland the seat of the soul. Ancient yogis considered it the third eye's biological counterpart. and modern neuroscientists now confirm that it's one of the most unique, powerful organs in the human body. Why? Because the pineal gland does more than regulate melatonin, the hormone responsible for your sleep-wake cycle. It's sensitive to light, even though it's buried deep within your brain. And some researchers believe it may be capable of producing a powerful compound called DMT, the spirit molecule. DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, is a naturally occurring psychedelic substance found in plants, animals, and yes, possibly in you. It's been linked to vivid dreams, near-death experiences, mystical visions, out-of-body journeys. When released in trace amounts, DMT may be responsible for spontaneous moments of clarity, synchronicity, or downloads of sudden inner knowing. But when activated intentionally, through meditation, breathwork, chanting, or even moments of deep trauma, the pineal gland becomes a portal, not to hallucination, but to higher perception. Carl Jung never spoke of DMT, but he understood the realms it accessed. He spoke of the collective unconscious, a deep, infinite dimension of the psyche where symbols, archetypes, and divine truths live. It's where your soul goes when your ego finally shuts up. He believed the unconscious was not just repressed memory, but a cosmic mirror containing everything the human soul has ever known, or ever will know. And guess what? Every time you sit in stillness, every time you breathe with intention, every time you close your physical eyes to look inward, you send a signal to your pineal gland. And that ancient gland, it listens. This is why. Meditation sharpens your perception. Pranayama awakens intuition. Om chanting vibrates your skull and subtly stimulates this inner light sensor. Darkness retreats are used to decalcify and activate the third eye, because this third eye isn't just a metaphor, it's biological design plus spiritual destiny. Your body was built to awaken. The question is, have you been giving it the silence it needs to remember? So yes, the third eye lives in ancient texts, but it also lives in your brain, waiting, dormant, sacred. And once it awakens, once the pineal portal opens, you don't just see reality. You pierce through it. You decode illusion. You feel energy. You remember who you are. This is not fantasy. This is science catching up to spirit. And the pineal gland. It's the bridge between both. Chapter 3. When the third eye opens, what actually happens? This is the moment where everything changes, not on the outside, but deep within. Because when your third eye opens, it doesn't make you special, it makes you honest. You begin to feel energies before a single word is spoken. It's like your intuition got a microphone. You walk into a room, and without a sound, your soul whispers, "Something here isn't right." You sense deception, even when it's dressed in the finest smile. You feel the tension between people that pretend to be friends. You detect manipulation before it shows its face. It's not magic, it's hyper-perception. A deep inner knowing that doesn't just process facts, it reads frequencies. You stop believing in coincidences, because now you see patterns, the same type of people entering your life, the same lessons repeating, the same emotions looping like a song on repeat. Carl Jung called this out with brutal accuracy. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Let that sink in. The fights you keep having, the heartbreaks you keep repeating, the jobs you sabotage, and the friendships that drain you, they're not just happening to you, they're echoes from your unconscious self, trying to get your attention. When the third eye opens, it's not all peace and visions. It's painful, it's disorienting, because suddenly you're seeing the raw, unfiltered truth of your own life. And it doesn't always look pretty, but guess what? That's power. Because only when you see the truth can you change the path. Opening the third eye is the most revolutionary act of self-liberation. It's when you stop blaming the world and start decoding your own soul. This isn't spiritual decoration. This is spiritual demolition, tearing down every illusion the ego built to protect your pain. You don't just see with the third eye. You understand. And once you understand, you evolve. Why? Chapter 4. Signs your third eye is opening. So, how do you really know your third eye is opening? It doesn't come with fireworks. There's no voice in your head whispering ancient secrets. It's subtle, but undeniable. It's not a feeling, it's a shift. And once it starts, there's no going back. Let's break it down, sign by sign, not in fluffy language, but in raw, real-life transformation. 1. Heightened intuition. You just know, you can't explain it, but your gut becomes a compass that rarely misses. You walk into a room and instantly feel the energy shift. Someone lies to you, and though their words sound perfect, something inside you winces. This isn't guessing. This is your subconscious finally talking louder than your logic. 2. Vivid dreams. Symbols. Your dream world becomes a second life. You wake up remembering colors, faces, symbols. Sometimes they're beautiful, sometimes disturbing, but always meaningful. Why? Because your unconscious, as Jung said, speaks in symbols, and when your third eye opens, your night becomes a classroom. 3. Emotional detachment. You stop getting triggered by nonsense. Suddenly, that person who used to push your buttons just looks small. You don't respond with rage anymore. You respond with awareness, not because you've become cold, but because you've become clear. You no longer personalize projections, you see through them. 4. Energy sensitivity. Some places make your chest tighten. Some people drain your soul, even without saying a word. Others lift you up with just their presence. Your body becomes an instrument, tuned into subtle frequencies, and you start honoring what your energy is telling you, not what the world tries to convince you. 5. Solitude feels like home. You stop fearing being alone. In fact, you crave it, not because you're broken, but because silence has become your greatest teacher. You start enjoying your own company in ways you never thought possible. The world gets louder, but you go deeper. But here's the hard truth. It's not comfortable, it's not soft or cozy. When the third eye opens, it doesn't show you beauty first. It shows you truth. And truth, it burns. It burns away illusions. It exposes fake friends. It confronts you with your own shadow, the parts of yourself you denied for years. It's not some aesthetic, spiritual awakening. It's spiritual surgery. It cuts through ego, delusion, victimhood, and false identity to reveal the real you. And yes, it hurts, but it's also liberating because once you see clearly, you don't beg anymore, you don't chase anymore, you don't shrink anymore, you don't react, you respond, you don't follow, you lead. You don't question your worth, because now you know who you are. The third eye doesn't give you superpowers, it gives you sacred vision. And that's more powerful than any illusion this world has to offer. Chapter 5. The Dark Side. Why most fear the third eye. Let's drop the sugarcoating. The truth is, most people don't want their third eye to open. They say they do. They say they want to awaken, to see the truth, to evolve spiritually. But when that eye begins to flicker open, when it starts showing them the real world, the real them, they panic. Why? Because the third eye doesn't just give you vision, it strips away illusion. And once that happens, you can't unsee the masks people wear. You can't laugh at jokes that hide jealousy. You can't nod to relationships built on manipulation. You can't ignore the emotional games that once kept you addicted. You can't lie to yourself just to keep the peace. You become unreachable by shallow distractions because now your soul is listening and it won't settle for surface-level nonsense anymore. But here's the dark truth. That kind of clarity is terrifying. Carl Jung, the godfather of modern shadow work, said it best. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that's exactly why most people never make it. They meditate for peace, but when pain shows up instead, they quit. They ask for vision, but when that vision reveals their own wounds, their own patterns, their own shadow, they run. Why? Because the third eye doesn't care about your comfort. It's not here to soothe your ego. It's here to shatter it. It forces you to face the trauma you buried, the lies you tell yourself, the roles you play to feel loved, the fears that secretly control your choices, The version of you that you outgrew years ago but still cling to. It's not cool. It's confrontational. It's not fun. It's surgical. But those who stay, those who breathe through the panic, those who face their own soul without flinching, they evolve. They become warriors of awareness. They stop seeking approval and start walking with purpose. They no longer beg to be chosen. They choose themselves. They aren't perfect, but they're awake. And in a world hypnotized by illusion, an awakened soul is the rarest force of all. Chapter 6. How to Activate the Third Eye. Jungian Approach. Let's clear up the biggest misconception right now. You don't need drugs to awaken. You don't need ayahuasca in the jungle. You don't need to escape your life and chase enlightenment halfway across the world. You need discipline. You need self-awareness. You need courage to sit with yourself long enough that truth becomes louder than fear. Carl Jung never drank a spirit brew, but he still journeyed deeper into the soul than most ever dare to. Here's how to activate your third eye using a pure, grounded, Jungian-inspired approach. 1. Silent meditation. 10 minutes a day. This isn't about emptying your mind. It's about watching it. Every thought, every emotion. Let them rise, let them pass. Become the observer, not the reactor. This practice trains your awareness to rise above the ego's noise, and over time you begin to see without distortion. 2. Shadow journaling. What triggers you? What do you avoid? What makes you irrationally angry, insecure, jealous, or afraid? Write it down, not to shame yourself, but to integrate it. Jung called this shadow work, confronting the parts of ourselves we've denied or buried, and until you do that, your third eye will remain fogged by the lies you tell yourself. 3. Pranayama, conscious breathing. Try alternate nostril breathing. Inhale left, exhale right, then switch. It's simple, but powerful. It balances both hemispheres of your brain. It calms your nervous system. And most importantly, it stimulates your pineal gland, the biological seat of your third eye. This is where science and spirituality meet. 4. Om chanting. You're not just making a sound, you're activating a frequency. The vibration of OM resonates at the same frequency as the third eye chakra. Chant it slowly. Feel the vibration echo through your forehead into the center of your brain. But here's the hardest part, and the most important: face yourself. Not the version you post online, not the one you perform to be liked, but the real you. Face your guilt. Face your trauma. Face the patterns you inherited and the ones you created. Face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Because, as Jung said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. This is not a to-do list. This is a path, not a path to magic powers, but to inner liberation. The third eye isn't for the curious. It's for the committed. And if you walk this path fully, you won't just open your third eye, you'll open your entire life. Chapter 7. The Superpowers of an Open Third Eye. There comes a moment on this path, not loud, not dramatic, but quietly undeniable, where you realize you've changed, not just in how you think, but in how you exist. Because once your third eye opens and stays open, you don't move through life like everyone else anymore. You stop chasing validation. Why? Because you no longer need the world to clap for a version of you that isn't real. You begin to emit something deeper: presence. And presence is louder than performance. People feel you before you speak. You walk into a room and something shifts, not because you're trying, but because you're aligned. You don't argue your truth, you embody it. There's no more need to explain your worth, justify your decisions, or prove your value. You simply live it. And in a world full of noise, your silence becomes powerful. You become magnetic. People can't explain it, but they're drawn to you. Not because of how you look, but because of how you make them feel. You've cleared out your inner chaos, and now your peace becomes contagious. You don't hustle for attention. Your energy becomes an atmosphere. You begin to see patterns, not just in people, but in life itself. The same wounds repeating, the same archetypes showing up in different bodies. You start connecting dots others don't even see. Because now you're seeing through the lens of awareness, not emotion. You realize nothing is random. Every soul you meet is a mirror. Every challenge is a teacher. You begin to live in alignment. Decisions don't feel forced anymore. They flow. It's as if life starts working with you, not against you. Why? Because you're no longer reacting from fear. You're responding from inner knowing. You trust your intuition more than other people's opinions. You start honoring what feels right instead of what looks safe. This isn't fantasy, this isn't woo-woo, this is inner mastery. This is what happens when you stop looking outward and start aligning inward. Carl Jung didn't promise bliss, he promised integration. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And the third eye, it's not about becoming someone better, it's about becoming yourself, fully, unapologetically, consciously. This isn't just seeing the world differently, it's seeing your place in it, with clarity and with purpose and with power. Chapter 8. When the world looks different, the perception shift. When your third eye opens, it doesn't give you new eyes, it gives you a new lens, and suddenly the world doesn't look the same. The buildings haven't changed, the people are still there, the sounds, the lights, the daily routine, all unchanged. But you are different. Because now you don't just see, you perceive. You begin to notice the energies behind appearances. Someone smiles at you, but behind their eyes, you feel the manipulation. A job offer comes your way, but your intuition whispers, this isn't alignment, it's entrapment. A friend goes silent, and yet their silence screams the truth you've been avoiding. A compliment lands, but underneath you sense envy wrapped in sweet words. This is the perception shift. It's not mystical. It's mental clarity plus spiritual awareness. It's your nervous system no longer numbed by distraction. It's your soul tuned to a deeper frequency, one that feels truth before words even land. Carl Jung captured this shift with devastating precision. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Why terrifying? Because this perception shift doesn't just let you see others with clarity, it forces you to face yourself, without filters. You begin to see where you lied to survive, where you performed instead of expressed, where you settled out of fear, not faith, where your ego made decisions your soul now regrets. That kind of clarity? It's raw, it's brutal, it's liberating. You stop pretending, you stop blaming, you stop performing, because now you know, and once you know, you can't unknow. That's the price of awareness, but it's also the privilege of awakening. Here's what begins to happen as the shift deepens. You speak less, but say more. You observe more, but react less. You forgive faster. Not because they deserve it, but because your peace is sacred. You let go easily, because attachment is no longer your identity. You protect your energy, because now you understand its value. You no longer crave more. You crave meaning. You no longer beg to be seen. You see yourself, and that's enough. And in this space, you become dangerous to the world that profits off your distraction. Why? Because you're no longer hypnotized by the matrix of noise. You're awake. And the awakened are not easy to control. They don't buy into fear. They don't obey blindly. They don't follow the crowd. They lead themselves. This is the gift of perception. It's not just about seeing differently. It's about living differently. It's not about being spiritual. It's about being so grounded in your truth that no illusion can shake your foundation. This is the new reality, and once your third eye opens, there's no going back. Only forward, only deeper, only higher. Chapter 9. The third eye doesn't lie. Why you lose people. Here's the part nobody tells you during your spiritual awakening. You're not just going to see more, you're going to lose more. When your third eye opens, yes, you gain insight, clarity, power, presence, but you also start losing people. And it's not because you became arrogant, it's because you became honest. You start seeing through the performances, the games, the shallow compliments, the energy leeches hiding behind smiles. Let's break it down. Fake friends fall away, not because you pushed them, but because the energy exchange is no longer aligned. They were connected to your mask, not your soul. And when the mask falls, they vanish. Shallow relationships feel unbearable. You can't keep entertaining people who talk but don't feel, who text but don't connect, who show up but don't stand up. What used to feel normal now feels nauseating. Superficial conversations drain you. You'd rather sit in silence with depth than talk for hours with no meaning. The gossip, the complaining, the empty small talk. It no longer stimulates you. It suffocates you. Why does this happen? Because when you start living in truth, the people built on illusion can't meet you there. You stop people-pleasing. You stop editing your truth to fit someone's comfort zone. You stop shrinking your light to avoid triggering someone's shadows. And that shift, it's a spiritual earthquake. Because the version of you that kept everyone comfortable no longer exists. Carl Jung warned us about this when he said, "Shame is a soul-eating emotion." And that's exactly what you stop carrying. You stop apologizing for your intensity. You stop diluting your emotions. You stop explaining your intuition to people who don't even trust themselves. Because now, you trust you. And that trust becomes a filter, a boundary, a mirror. The weak won't just fade, some will attack you. Why? Because your authenticity exposes their inauthenticity. They'll say, "You've changed. You're distant now. You think you're better than us." But here's the truth. You didn't change to hurt them. You changed to heal you. You didn't walk away because you hated them. You walked away because you finally loved yourself. And guess what? That kind of shift, yes, it repels the shallow. Yes, it triggers the insecure. Yes, it clears the room. But it also magnetizes the real, the aligned, the awakened, the ones who speak your language, not just with words, but with energy. And in time, you'll realize you never lost anyone. You just made space for those who were meant to find the real you, so let them go. Not in bitterness, but in gratitude. They were part of your mask era. Now you're stepping into your soul era. This is the cost of vision. But it's also the beginning of sacred alignment. Chapter 10. From Seeing to Knowing, the Birth of Inner Mastery. There comes a point in the journey where the third eye no longer just helps you see what's hidden. It evolves into something far greater. It helps you know. This is where the illusions end. This is where guessing dies. This is where you stop second-guessing yourself and start trusting your knowing. You know who's real. You know what your next step is, even if it makes no logical sense. You know when someone's words don't match their energy. You know when a blessing is actually a test, and most importantly, you know who you are. This is not ego, this is alignment. You no longer need the world to confirm your path, because your inner compass is louder than any outside voice. You don't seek permission, you walk in purpose. You don't seek validation, you walk in vibration. You stop begging the universe for signs, because you become the sign. Your life becomes the message. Your energy becomes the answer. Carl Jung didn't describe this as enlightenment. He called it individuation, the sacred psychological process of becoming whole, integrating your shadow, owning your wounds, reclaiming the disowned parts of yourself. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming authentic. It's about living in such harmony with your truth that your existence itself becomes power. Jung knew this wasn't easy. He warned, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that privilege, it's earned, not handed. It requires shedding skins. It requires grieving versions of yourself that survived, but never thrived. It demands letting go of every identity you clung to, just to feel loved. Here's what mastery looks like. You no longer rush because you trust divine timing. You no longer chase because you attract by being real. You no longer react because you've mastered the art of stillness. You no longer need approval because your soul already approves. This is not passive spirituality. This is spiritual authority. This is what happens when the third eye isn't just open, it's anchored. It's rooted in wisdom. It's stable. It sees. It knows. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You're not in competition. You're in creation. You're not hustling. You're aligning. You're not explaining your path. You're walking it, unapologetically. That's the final shift. You don't just see truth. You embody it. You don't just understand power. You become it, silently, humbly, fully, And in that stillness, you realize you were never lost. You were never broken. You were just buried beneath noise, lies, roles, and survival patterns. Now, you've returned, not to who the world told you to be, but to who you've always been. This is the gift of the third eye, not just sight, not just insight, but inner sight, knowing, without proof, without logic, without fear. And when you live from that place, you don't just change your life, you become the light that changes others. This is the birth of inner mastery. This is the final stage of awakening, not louder, but deeper, not flashier, but truer, not more. Just you, fully seen, fully known, fully free. Chapter 11. The Death of the Old Self, Ego Collapse. Let's not romanticize awakening, because when the third eye truly opens, you don't just gain clarity, you lose identity. One thing dies, and it dies loudly. The old you, not your body, not your name, but the version of you that was built to survive in a world of masks, the version of you that was addicted to attention because silence felt like abandonment, chased validation from broken people because pain was familiar, feared rejection more than stagnation because approval felt like air, performed emotions to be accepted, hid truth to feel safe, chose comfort over courage. That version of you, it can't walk through the gates of higher awareness because the third eye doesn't just see through the world, it sees through you. And once you see yourself clearly, the lies you lived by begin to fall apart. Carl Jung captured this beautifully. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. Think about that. All the roles you've played, all the personalities you've tried on, all the masks you wore just to be enough. They weren't random, they were layers, armor, a defense system built by your ego to protect your inner child from pain. But when your third eye opens, you don't need that armor anymore. And the ego, it panics. It starts screaming, who will love you if you stop performing? Who will stay if you show your wounds? What if your truth makes you unrelatable or unlovable? It fights, it flares, it clings to the old version of you because it knows its time is up. This is what most people call the dark night of the soul, but it's not darkness, it's deconstruction. It's the falling away of everything that's false, so the real you can finally stand without trembling. And yes, it hurts. You'll cry without knowing why. You'll feel lost, like you don't belong anywhere. You'll grieve, not because someone left, but because you did. You'll question everything you once believed about yourself. You'll feel naked in a world you used to navigate blindfolded. That pain? That's not weakness, it's rebirth. You're not breaking, you're burning. And from that fire something sacred emerges, a self that no longer needs to be liked to be worthy, a self that no longer tolerates what doesn't feed the soul, a self that no longer lives from reaction, but from resonance. This is the moment you stop being a version of what the world demanded and start becoming what your soul always was. This is the ego collapse. Not destruction, but alchemical surrender. Your old self dies, but what's born in its place? Peace without conditions, power without performance, purpose without permission, love without losing yourself. The third eye doesn't just show you truth, it initiates you into it. And truth will always ask for a sacrifice. So if it hurts, good. That means the illusion is dying. That means you're waking up. And the one who wakes up can never return to sleep again. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're just in the in-between. Between the death of the mask and the rebirth of the master. Chapter 12. Silence becomes louder than words. There comes a stage on the path of awakening where you no longer need to raise your voice because your presence has become louder than your explanations. Your energy becomes your language. Your stillness becomes your authority. When your third eye is truly open, you realize something powerful, something sacred. Silence is not empty. It's alive. It speaks volumes that noise never could. You stop explaining yourself. because truth doesn't beg for understanding. You stop justifying your boundaries, because alignment doesn't require permission. You stop chasing conversations that drain your soul, because protecting your energy becomes non-negotiable. You're no longer thirsty for attention. You've tasted peace, and now anything less feels toxic. Carl Jung captured this transition with piercing elegance. Solitude is not the absence of energy, but the presence of self. Let that land, because solitude used to scare you. It felt like rejection, isolation, abandonment. But now, it feels like home. You sit in silence, and you feel more connected than ever before. You walk alone, and yet, you feel full. You stop talking just to fill the space, because now you respect the space. You become deeply selective, not from pride but from clarity. You realize not every argument deserves your wisdom, not every room deserves your light, not every connection deserves your time. And something incredible begins to happen. You sit in a room full of chaos, and you remain unmoved. You witness provocation, and you refuse to perform. You hear loud voices and louder egos, and you feel calm, not threatened. You walk away from drama, not with bitterness but with power. Why? Because silence is no longer weakness. It's your weapon. You become so rooted in your truth. That noise can't distract you. People can't trigger you. Chaos can't reach you. And this scares the world because we live in a culture that's addicted to noise, to validation, to performing identity. But you've become still. Stillness is the highest form of inner mastery. It's not passivity, it's precision. It's not retreat, it's refinement. You stop flinching when others project. You stop explaining your peace. You stop craving to be understood. Because now, you understand yourself. And the one who understands themselves becomes dangerous to every system that profits off insecurity. You don't need a stage to speak anymore. Your silence will echo louder than 1,000 speeches. You don't need to clap back. Your peace will haunt them louder than your words ever could. So when they say, "Why are you so quiet now?" You've changed. You used to care more. Smile. Because yes, you've changed. You've evolved. You've ascended. You no longer react. You respond. You no longer perform. You embody. And that, my friend, that's the moment you become unstoppable. Because silence isn't just golden, it's divine. Chapter 13. You no longer belong to this world. There comes a moment on this sacred, soul-cracking journey where you look around at the world you once desperately tried to belong to, and you feel something strange. Not anger, not bitterness, not arrogance, just detachment. You're not trying to be better than anyone. You're not trying to escape society. But inside you, something has shifted so deeply that the noise no longer holds power over you. You start feeling like a foreigner in your own life. You're physically present but spiritually elsewhere. The things that once excited you now feel empty. The conversations that once fed you now feel shallow. The approval you used to chase now feels irrelevant. Material desires? They used to pull at your heart. Now they barely flicker in your soul. You used to scroll for hours, craving to be in the loop. Now you crave stillness. You used to fear being left out. Now you intentionally remove yourself from anything that feels fake, loud, or misaligned. You no longer chase drama, gossip, toxic love, or trends, because you finally recognize them for what they are. Distractions. Distractions from yourself, distractions from peace, distractions from presence. Your soul begins to crave a new kind of nourishment. Not noise, passive but silence. Not validation, but authenticity. Not attention, but alignment. Not 100 followers, but one sacred connection. Not chaos, but clarity. You find yourself saying no more often, not because you're bitter, but because your peace matters more than participation. And here's the part they don't tell you: that peace will cost you popularity. That truth will cost you comfort. That clarity will cost you companionship. Because in a world addicted to surface, depth becomes intimidating. Carl Jung said it best: the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But he never said it was easy. Because becoming who you truly are means shedding every mask you wore to be liked. It means outgrowing the very people you once begged to stay. It means walking away from comfort and into truth. And that truth, it will make you rare. You'll be misunderstood. They'll say, "You've changed. You're distant. You think you're better now." No, you're not better. You're just clear. You're just not playing their game anymore. You're just no longer available for what drains your soul. You don't belong to the crowd anymore. You belong to yourself. And in this new world of detachment, you discover something profound. Your solitude is sacred. Your energy is currency. Your boundaries are holy. You become intimidating, not because of how loud you are, but because of how little you need from anyone. And in a world that feeds on attention-seeking, that kind of independence, it's terrifying. But it's also your superpower, because now you walk with a different rhythm. You breathe in awareness. You respond from knowing. You move from source, not survival. And those who see you, truly see you, will recognize the rare frequency you carry. Not everyone will get you, but the right ones, they'll feel you before you speak. You no longer belong to the noise. You belong to the now. You belong to the truth. You belong to the version of you that's been waiting beneath the surface your entire life. You've returned. And this world, this loud, shallow, approval-addicted world, it may never understand you again. But that's okay, because you didn't come here to fit in. You came here to wake up. And now that you have, you walk differently, not above others, just beyond the illusion. You are no longer owned by this world. You are led by something deeper. And that changes everything. Chapter 14. The world starts to mirror your inner state. Here's one of the most profound and yet most uncomfortable truths about awakening. The world around you is not reacting to you, it's reflecting you. When your third eye is truly open, you stop living in a state of unconscious reaction. You stop waking up each day thinking life is happening to you, because you finally realize life has always been happening through you. You are not just a passive observer, you are a living frequency, a walking vibration, and the world, it becomes your mirror. Not in the shallow sense of positive thinking creates positive life. No, this goes far deeper, because alignment isn't about faking good vibes, it's about embodying energetic truth. You no longer repeat forced affirmations hoping something sticks. You no longer script your goals out of desperation. You no longer manifest from scarcity. You become magnetic, not because you're chasing, but because you've become aligned. And then it happens effortlessly. The right people start showing up, people who feel like soul recognition. The wrong people start falling away, without chaos, without drama. Synchronicities appear, numbers, signs, symbols, dreams, guiding you like breadcrumbs from the divine. Toxic situations dissolve, not because you fought harder, but because you no longer match their frequency. Carl Jung described this process with stunning depth. Synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that reveals a hidden connection. And here's the hidden code behind that connection. As within or so without, your inner world writes the script, and the external world performs it. If you carry unresolved wounds, you'll attract people who trigger them. If you vibrate in victimhood, life will keep giving you circumstances to confirm it. If you walk in self-worth, opportunities, clarity, and peace become your default environment. It's not punishment, it's feedback. And that feedback, it's the fastest path to evolution. Because now when things feel chaotic, you don't blame the world. You ask yourself, what inside me is still unhealed? And when things flow with ease, you don't doubt it. You trust it, because you know. You've earned that frequency. Here's the shift. You stop trying to control life. You start trying to co-create with it. You stop chasing and start receiving. You stop reacting and start aligning. You stop forcing things and start allowing space for what's meant to be. You begin to live from the inside out. And when that happens, something sacred unfolds. Your peace becomes louder than your fear. Your energy speaks louder than your words. Your intentions shape your reality without a word spoken. Your detachment draws in what you used to beg for. You stop praying to escape life and start embodying the prayer through life. Because now, the world doesn't feel random. It doesn't feel hostile. It doesn't feel like it's against you. It feels like a mirror, not to punish you, but to reveal you. It shows you what you've healed, and it shows you what you're still hiding, with ruthless precision and with divine grace. And that mirror, it never lies. So if the world looks chaotic, don't fight it. Face it, not out there, but in here. Because when your third eye is open, you stop chasing outcomes, and you start mastering alignment. That's not just spiritual power, that's divine responsibility, because the one who sees the mirror can change everything. Chapter 15. You remember who you were before the world forgot you. This is the final gift of true third eye activation, not a superpower, not some supernatural ability, but a sacred remembering. Because awakening doesn't make you someone new. It unmasks the truth of who you've always been, before the world taught you to forget, before trauma buried your light, before society rewrote your script, before survival became your personality, before shame replaced your truth, before you were told, be quieter, be smaller, be less. This final stage is not becoming. It is returning. Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And yet, that is what the third eye demands. Not partial acceptance, not curated self-love, but radical, uncomfortable, unconditional self-ownership. You face the mirror, and you don't flinch. You sit with your past, and you don't apologize. You reclaim the parts of you that were exiled in silence. And what happens? You stop begging for love because now you realize the love you were searching for was you. You stop seeking permission to exist, to shine, to speak, to feel. Because now you don't just believe you matter, you embody it. You stop pretending to be easy to digest. You stop playing small to fit into rooms not built for your spirit. You stop explaining your fire to people who only know how to hold smoke, and in this returning, this sacred reawakening, you become whole, not perfect, not polished, but honest, complete. You accept the wounds, you honor the journey, you embrace the shadow, you love the inner child. You wear your truth like armor, soft but impenetrable. This is what it means to see with the third eye, not just to see through lies, but to see through yourself. You realize you were never too much, you were never broken, you were never behind, you were simply remembering. And from that moment on, you no longer walk blind through this world. You walk with vision, you move with certainty, you breathe with intention. You listen to intuition louder than opinions, you walk differently, not to be seen, but because you see. You speak differently, not to impress, but because you've found your voice. You live differently, not to escape, but because you've returned home to your soul. So now the masks fall away, the roles dissolve, the old identities turn to ash. And what rises from that sacred fire? You, the original you, the infinite you, the unapologetic, unfiltered, undiluted, unforgettable you. Part 7. Not a copy, not a code, not a performance. A soul, awake. And from here, the journey doesn't end. It begins. With your third eye leading, and your soul finally free. Chapter 16. You become the light in a world that feeds on darkness. There is a moment on this path, quiet but undeniable, where you realize something life-altering. You are no longer just awakening for yourself. You are awakening for others. Because once your third eye fully opens, you don't just see, you shine. You become the light in a world that has forgotten its own. You begin to notice it. People look to you differently, not because you're loud, but because you're anchored. They feel safer around you, not because you fix their lives, but because you carry presence. You don't preach, yet your silence transforms rooms. You've done the shadow work, you've walked through fire, you've buried the old self, faced your wounds, integrated your darkness. And now, you've become a mirror for others to begin their journey, not because you claim to be perfect, but because you are present. Not because you have all the answers, but because you finally listen to truth, not noise. This world is starving. starving for authenticity in a culture of filters, starving for meaning in a generation addicted to performance, starving for connection in a society built on separation, starving for depth in a world drowning in distraction. But when your third eye opens, when you live with sacred vision, you become the antidote. You no longer move from ego, you move from essence. You no longer react to chaos, you transmute it. You no longer chase impact, you embody it. And the ripple effect begins. Your light reminds others of their own. Your clarity disrupts their denial. Your energy shakes something loose in them, not with force but with frequency. But this power, it comes with a responsibility. Because once you see clearly, you cannot unsee, you cannot unfeel, you cannot unknow. You carry truth now, and truth is heavy. It isolates you, it sobers you, but it also liberates everyone you meet. Carl Jung warned us, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But once you've become, it's not just your privilege, it's your purpose. You are not here to fit in. You're here to wake up those who forgot they were sleeping. You are not here to entertain. You're here to expand, to anchor, to elevate. You are not here to save anyone, but your presence alone will remind others they can save themselves. This is leadership without ego, wisdom without noise, power without performance. You become the calm in the storm, the lighthouse in the fog, the mirror in the madness, the frequency in the chaos, the guide who doesn't point but embodies. You start to walk through this world not as a seeker, but as a beacon. Not to be seen, but to remind others, you've had this light all along. So yes, the journey was painful, yes, it was lonely, yes, it cost you relationships, comfort, identity, even sanity at times. But now, you understand why. You were never broken. You were breaking open, you weren't losing your mind, you were losing the conditioning that kept you small. Now, you walk differently, with vision, with power, with peace, and most importantly, with responsibility. To hold this light, to be this light, to protect this light. Because in a world that feeds on darkness, a single awakened soul becomes a revolution, and that soul is you. Chapter 17. This isn't the end, it's the return of the true self. After all the chapters, all the realizations, all the mirrors shattered and rebuilt, one thing becomes clear. This journey was never about becoming more. It was about remembering who you were before the world told you to be less, because awakening isn't a destination, it's a return, a homecoming to your true self. You didn't find the third eye, you removed what blocked it. You didn't gain wisdom, you uncovered what was always inside you. You were born with this vision, this light, this fire, but life covered it with shame, with programming, with trauma, noise, expectations, roles, labels, masks, and one by one you peeled those layers back, some with tears, some with rage, some with divine silence, but you kept going, and now you see, you don't just understand truth, you live it, you walk it, you are it. And here's the part no one tells you, the return is harder than the rise, because now you have to carry this light. In a world that prefers darkness, you'll have to speak soul in rooms obsessed with ego. You'll have to protect peace in places addicted to chaos. You'll have to walk slow in a culture that confuses speed with progress. But this is the real mastery, to carry your vision into everyday life, to live awake, even when everyone else is asleep. So you walk back into the world, with softer eyes but sharper intuition, with fewer words but deeper truth, with quieter energy but bolder presence. You're no longer here to escape the world. You're here to transform how you move through it. You stop waiting for signs because now you are the sign. You stop searching for the path because now you walk as the path. You don't have all the answers, but you carry something rarer: presence, clarity, alignment. This is the end of the spiral and the beginning of the circle. You've returned, not to who you were told to be, but to who you truly are. The noise can't shake you now. The illusion can't fool you now. The world can't own you now, because you don't just walk with eyes wide open. You walk with the third eye leading. Welcome back, soul. The mission begins here. Chapter 19. You don't just awaken, you awaken the world. This is the final turning point, the place beyond awakening, beyond knowledge, beyond even mastery. Because now, you don't just walk with truth. You carry a torch, a light that doesn't flicker in the wind, a frequency that doesn't lower to be accepted, a soul that doesn't shrink in a room that can't hold its depth. You've done what few dare to do. You've seen through illusion. You've died to the false self. You've stood in the fire and let it refine you, but now you carry truth in every breath. This is no longer about you. It's about your legacy, not the kind written in books, the kind etched in souls. Because every person you meet, every room you enter, every word you speak, becomes a seed of remembrance, a seed of expansion, a seed of awakening. The third eye was never just about perception. It was about activation. It activated your memory. It activated your mission. And now, it activates others. You see, when you live in truth, you give others permission to break free. When you walk in alignment, you become evidence that peace is possible. When you speak from soul, you don't just make noise. You change timelines. You become the proof that awakening is not only real, it's necessary. Carl Jung's work didn't end in academia. It rippled through culture, through healing, through the very fabric of spiritual awakening. And now, so will yours. You will awaken others without even trying. Not because you know more, but because your frequency says, come home. It's safe now. So what happens now? Now you become the one you once searched for. Now you become the presence you once begged to feel. Now you become the mirror you once needed when you were lost. You become the awakening for your family, your circle, your community, the world. And when enough souls like you awaken, the world begins to remember itself. You don't just carry light, you ignite it. You don't just heal your past, you shift the future. You don't just wake up, you awaken the world. And that is the highest form of vision. This is what the third eye was always preparing you for. Chapter 20. The third eye never closes again. Living in permanent awareness. Here it is. The final evolution. You've walked the fire. You've seen the illusions. You've buried your old self. You've awakened your soul. But now, you arrive at permanence. Because once the third eye opens fully, it never closes again. Not because you're always spiritual, not because you meditate 24/7, but because your awareness becomes your baseline. You no longer return to your truth. You live from it. This is the final stage, the quiet mastery, the sacred normalcy of living with soul sight, all the time. You're no longer triggered by old patterns because you see through them. You're no longer fooled by appearances because you sense intention. You're no longer addicted to highs because you reside in presence. You no longer need constant proof. You walk in constant alignment. This isn't about being enlightened. It's about being anchored. You don't float away. You walk grounded, centered, clear. You start living the mundane magically. A conversation becomes a mirror. A decision becomes a message. A stranger becomes a symbol. A delay becomes divine redirection. Everything starts speaking. Because now your soul is listening. Always. You don't wait for intuition to arrive. You are intuition. You don't ask for signs. You are the sign. And here's the ultimate shift. You stop accessing awareness and start embodying it. Every step becomes intentional. Every word becomes sacred. Every moment becomes home. No striving, no spiritual ego, no performative healing, just presence. You breathe, you know you are. And the third eye, it's no longer a mystical portal you try to open. It's a permanent lens through which you now live, move, and lead. This is the state Carl Jung pointed toward all along. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And once you do, you're free. You've accepted. You've integrated. You've awakened. And now? You're awake while walking. You're alive while silent. You're clear while humble. You've become the rarest kind of human in this world. The one who sees, the one who feels, the one who remembers. And now you walk through this world, not looking for light, but being it. The third eye will never close again. Because now you live in permanent awareness. And that is what awakening was always leading you to. This is your new default. This is your eternal sight. This is your rebirth. Or Chapter 21. The world will try to put you back to sleep. Stay awake even after 20 chapters of awakening. After all the illusions shattered, after the ego collapsed, and your soul stood in its full glory. There's one final truth you must never forget. The world will try to put you back to sleep, and it won't do it with force, it will do it gently, subtly, with temptation, with comfort, with distraction dressed as safety, because the moment you awaken, you don't just become free. You become dangerous to a system built on silence and sleep. You'll feel it. The pull to numb yourself again with busyness, the urge to shrink again just to belong, the quiet seduction of being liked more than being true, the fatigue of seeing everything when ignorance once felt easier, and in those moments, you must choose. Because awakening isn't a one-time event, it's a daily decision. You'll face people who mock your clarity. You'll lose friends who like the old you better. You'll hear voices saying, come back to comfort, stop being so intense, fit in again, sleep a little. But here's the deal. They don't hate your vision. They fear what it reveals about their blindness. And your job is not to dim, it's to hold the light, even when it shakes in your hand. Because if you fall asleep again, you take that light with you. And the world loses a mirror, a frequency, a chance to remember itself. Carl Jung warned us, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And now you see it everywhere. In politics, in culture, in relationships, in entertainment, in self-sabotage disguised as freedom. But your awareness, it's non-negotiable now. You didn't walk through the fire to forget the heat. You didn't die to your old self just to resurrect your old story. You didn't awaken to truth just to go back to pretending. So stay awake, even when it's lonely, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's exhausting, especially when it's tempting to forget. Because your vision isn't just for you, it's for every soul still trapped in the illusion you broke through. You are a signal, a system disruptor, a soul rememberer. And now the test isn't, can you awaken? The test is, can you stay awake while the world seduces you back to sleep? Here's how you do it. Keep returning to your stillness. Keep questioning the noise. Keep choosing alignment over applause. Keep walking away from the comfortable lie and toward the uncomfortable truth. Keep remembering who you are and who you're not. Because you're not here to blend in. You're here to wake others up by staying awake yourself. And that is the warrior path of permanent awareness. This is the final warning and the final call. If your third eye is open, guard it like a sacred flame, because in a world built to distract you from yourself, staying awake is the most rebellious act of all. Chapter 22. How to maintain third eye clarity in a world of illusion. So you've awakened. You've seen through the matrix. You've felt the sacred burn of ego death and the quiet rebirth of soul clarity. But now comes the real work, maintaining it. Because your third eye isn't just a portal that opens once, it's a lens. And like any lens, it can be fogged, distorted, or clogged by the dust of distraction. This world runs on illusion. It profits from your blindness. It thrives when your vision is external and your awareness is asleep. So the question becomes, how do you stay clear when everything around you is designed to cloud your mind? Here are the 7 sacred disciplines of third eye maintenance. Daily practices to keep your soul vision sharp, your energy clean, and your alignment unshakable. 1. Digital fasting. Reclaim your inner signal. The screen has become the new spell. Constant input. Spiritual static. Take time away from noise. Unfollow what numbs your awareness. Silence isn't just peaceful, it's cleansing. 2. Energy tracking. Feel before you act. Your third eye speaks in subtlety. Learn to pause. Check your energy before you reply, post, or choose. Ask, is this reaction or alignment? 3. Daily stillness. Let the mind breathe. This isn't optional. 5 minutes of nothingness. Spiritual surgery. Silence is the gym of your third eye. Return to it. Sit. Breathe. Listen. 4. Nature immersion. Recalibrate with earth. The natural world doesn't lie. Sit by trees, walk barefoot. Let the sun detox your pineal gland. Let the moon remind your body what ancient rhythm feels like. 5. Conscious speech. Words shape reality. Stop lying to yourself in casual language. Every time you say, "I'm tired, I'm broke, I'm stuck," you're reinforcing a version of you that no longer exists. Speak as the awakened. Speak as the mirror. Speak from inner truth. 6. Food as frequency. Detox your temple. Junk food clouds your mind. Overstimulating, processed, low-vibration food. Third eye fog. Drink clean water. Eat with intention. Honor your body like it's housing the divine, because it is. 7. Emotional integration. No more suppression. Feel everything. Avoid nothing. Suppressed emotion. Shadow fuel. Your third eye requires emotional clarity. Not numbness, but integration. Journal it, breathe through it, face it, or be fooled by it later. Carl Jung never gave us a how-to guide, but he taught us that the unconscious will rule our lives until we make it conscious. And that's your job now. Not just to awaken, but to stay conscious in an unconscious world. You're no longer allowed to forget who you are. You're no longer permitted to drown in distractions. You're no longer a beginner. You are the mirror. You are the signal. You are the one others watch when they're trying to remember. Your vision is sacred. Protect it. Because if your third eye goes dim again, so does every soul you were meant to activate. Stay clean. Stay clear. Stay awake. This is the discipline of the awakened. This isn't just a video. It's your awakening. Let's be honest, and you didn't find this video by accident. And you didn't stay this long because you were just curious. You stayed because something in your soul recognized the truth. Something deep inside you whispered, "I've been here before, and I'm ready to come home." This wasn't just information. This wasn't just another voice on the internet. This was a mirror, a portal, a reminder. You're not just a name, a body, a job title, or a story. You are energy, you are consciousness. You are a soul, and your third eye is your soul's vision. And let's stop pretending you're not feeling it right now. That pull in your chest, that ache in your gut, that quiet knowing in the back of your mind that says, "There's more to me than I've allowed myself to become." Because there is, there always was, and now you're remembering. You're remembering the power that was never lost, only buried. You're remembering the voice that was never gone, only silenced. You're remembering the light that was never dimmed, just hidden behind pain, fear, and noise. So here's your moment. If this video cracked something open in you, if it stirred something ancient, something sacred, something true, then don't just watch and scroll, declare it. Drop this in the comments right now. I choose inner truth, I awaken now. Not for likes, not for attention, but as a sacred vow between you and your soul. Because when you write it, you're not just typing words, you're anchoring a frequency. You're telling the universe, "I see now, I'm ready now, I remember now." And don't keep this to yourself. Share this video with someone who's been sleepwalking through life, someone who's been craving something real, someone whose soul is on the edge, just waiting for the right spark to wake up. Then subscribe now, not just to follow, but to remember, to reclaim, to rise, because this is not the end. This is the beginning of you, the real you, the raw you, the awakened you, the one who no longer walks through life with eyes closed, but with the third eye leading. Welcome back. We've been waiting, and now your soul walks with vision. Final conclusion. The third eye doesn't close. It transforms your life forever. So here we are. After 22 chapters of peeling back illusions, decoding inner truths, burning through ego, integrating shadows, remembering soul, we arrive not at an end, but at a threshold. Because awakening was never a destination. It was a departure from blindness into sight, from sleep into stillness, from identity into essence, from noise into knowing. You came here searching for vision, and now you are the vision. This wasn't just about the third eye. It was about what happens when your inner eye becomes your only guide. It was about breaking the matrix of conditioning, about remembering the you that existed before the world told you who to be. It was about choosing clarity in a world that profits from confusion. And now you've done it, you've crossed over. You no longer live from reaction, you move from resonance. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer survive, you remember. But here's the truth. This path isn't easy. You'll be misunderstood, you'll be called intense, you'll feel lonely sometimes. And yes, the world will tempt you to close your eyes again. But you won't. Because you've seen, you've felt, you've awakened. And the awakened cannot unsee, the healed cannot unfeel, the aligned cannot unlive the truth they've touched. So now carry this light, not as a badge, but as a frequency. Let your life become the proof. Let your silence become the message. Let your soul become the invitation for others to remember who they are. And when the noise gets loud, return here, to your breath, to your body, to your third eye, to your knowing. You're not lost, you're just walking awake in a world still asleep. And now, you carry the torch. Lead the way. The world needs your vision. The future needs your clarity, and your soul already knows the path. Stay awake, stay clear, stay true. The real journey begins now.